Hello there everyone, this is episode 6 of the Astroneer Megatech DLC series, which is the episode that comes after episode 5 of the Astroneer Megatech DLC series. That's the best I could come up with. But yes, in this one we are going to automate bytes forever style, right? We have 20,000 bytes right now, and eventually I'm going to need more. And if I do want more, I'm going to have to go get them myself. Unless we make it so that that's not necessary ever again at all, which is my favorite concept under the sun, which is rising right now. That's kind of weird and corny. Shouldn't have said that. But yes, let me go into great detail about what exactly it is we are doing in this video in order to make sure that we can actually automate bytes forever style. And you might want to buckle up because this is going to take a really long time to explain. You see, atmospheric condensers make gases for free, and you can research them. That's literally it. But there is a little bit more to consider than just that, right? We have here nitrogen, which can be gotten on the home planet. Pretty convenient because it's also at 100 parts per unit, which means that it's going to gather as fast as any other of the fastest gases in the game. I could have worded that better, but we're not going to worry about that. But yes, my point. We're getting 80 bytes per minute from this, and since, again, it's made with the atmospheric condenser, we can replace this as soon as it goes away if we simply automate the system with, say, auto arms. So, realistically, with nitrogen, what I'm trying to say is, with one single research chamber, we can get 80 bytes per minute forever. But we want to do this with less research chambers ideally, so that if we do multiple research chambers, we're getting the most bang for our buck. So what we're getting to here is, what is better than nitrogen to research if we're talking about the atmospheric condenser? Well, realistically, that's not an extremely straightforward question, and let me demonstrate that right now. Here are two really good options that we can consider. We have helium and methane. So let's plop helium in here and see how many bytes per minute we get from it. You see, it is 200. Significantly more than nitrogen, definitely a worthwhile upgrade. Also, though, we want to consider methane. It is a good choice as well. Now then, it's at 160 bytes per minute. You may wonder why we would even consider methane when it's significantly lower than helium, especially since they are both gotten on the same planet, right? They are both going to be gotten on Atrox, helium and methane. Why would we consider doing the worst one? Well, that's for the reason that I stated earlier. You see, nitrogen on the home planet, 100 parts per unit. That's what I said, and I stated that that was a pretty good advantage because it means we're going to generate it with the atmospheric condenser very quickly. But helium, although being worth more than methane, is gathered at 25 parts per unit. And so, if we were to do helium on Atrox, we'd be getting it 4 times slower than methane, but it's only worth, 25% more. So it's like, which one's better? Well, I would say methane, right? Because we can get 4 times as much, and it's only worth 20% less, right? So 20% less, but you can get twice as much. Pretty good there, because that means we need less atmospheric condensers for the same amount of research chambers, and atmospheric condensers are more expensive than research chambers. Not to mention that, it's just less building and setting up in general. So, anyways, there's some phenomenal news regarding this video right now, which is that I already have a good base on Atrox, and by good base on Atrox, I mean my base on Atrox is significantly better than the base I have even here. So, I should be able to set all this up on Atrox without even having to come back here, probably, which is my favorite thing ever, at all. Of all things, that's my favorite. That video I spent so many hours on building that Atrox base is finally paying off. Now, I don't have a lot of scrap right now. In fact, I have 0 because I took it all to the home planet, but I have plenty of soil over here with which to become scrap. And so, I'm just going to turn this system back on and let that happen while I scheme out the rest of what's going to be done here, because I don't actually have a full plan yet. But yes, it is shoot straight with you time, okay? It is, because the hardest part of this video is not going to be I need a bunch of research chambers. The hardest part of this video is going to be I need a lot of power, right? I need a whole bunch of power because atmospheric condensers like to take... If we want 3 atmospheric condensers, that's 60 units of power a second right off the bat, and that's going to be most of the issue. And then there's 9 research chambers, each taking 2 units of power a second, so that is going to be 18 on top of the 60. We are going to need about 80 units of power a second, and so that's going to be probably the bigger issue in this video, is setting up the power, but it's not going to take long because we're just gonna do the tapper with some generators. There's one slight issue with that though, which is that all of my soil is either put aside for other purposes or I took it to the home planet, so I actually need more soil. But you know, that's actually quite nice because this gets soil very quickly. We should be able to get hundreds in just a couple of minutes, and so gonna have to go after that first. But then the rest of the video should go by pretty quickly because it's mostly gonna be me setting things up and then being like, hey, look, I set it up. This is how it works. Ah.
Told you that I'm over it. The gods have decided that I'm a hopeless optimist. You say your heart has had enough, but I do believe there's still some room in there for us. You can return the keys, you can walk out that door. I'll still be living in a dream, like we got years in store. Baby, won't you let me be delusional? I need you to let me be delusional.
Alright, so we're back and I got all of my soil, and as you can see here, I made a fatal mistake. We're gonna have to try to work through this. This right here, family, is why we add fail-safes for our systems. I knew this was gonna bite me in the back because I realized I didn't do it before. But what happens is, I have this here to take the scrap in, but I forgot to make it to where it takes scrap in, right? You have to disable the output for it to take stuff in. And so now the soil canisters didn't have anywhere to go to be scrapped because the scrapper was jammed up because the scrap wasn't being stored. And now yeah, you can see. I mean, I don't really have to explain anymore. But yeah, I'm going to clean that up. Then we have soil. I'm going to use the soil to get what we need to build this system. And I'll be back once I've done something of substance relating to that, I suppose, because I don't want this to drag on for too long. All right, I believe that is everything. And it always has to be nighttime in this life. I hate nighttime, especially on this planet. And it loves being dark whenever I'm trying to record, which makes things a lot more annoying than I wish they were. Anyways, we have ourselves 9 research chambers over here. With the 9 platforms they go on, they're stacked in the same fashion so that you know they go together. Look how clever I am for doing it. Now then, same thing over here. 2 atmospheric condensers. Wait, I was supposed to make 3. I'll be right back. We have 3 atmospheric condensers and 3 platforms for it, and then the 3 auto arms we are going to need to take the methane from the 3 atmospheric condensers to the 9 research chambers. Perfect just like that, except for that we need a lot of power. And so that's what this over here is. We have these 2 platforms right here, which should be enough small generators to power all this full speed. And then even some more, because why not? That's just who I am as a person. It's going to require 5 Attactuses and 2 auto arms because the Attactuses will be so fast that 1 auto arm will not be fast enough to actually power all these generators. What a phenomenal system. I prefer medium generators, but I didn't feel like it yet because I'm lazy. Doesn't matter. Anyways, in order to set all this up, we're going to need a pretty sizable area that's relatively flat, which is the worst on this planet. As you can see, everything sucks in terms of shape. So we're going to need quite a bit of soil, potentially, in order to flatten out the ground. But that's fine, because if we run out, we can just get it from this thing, because we have plenty of soil in it. Well, sort of, because that's actually all the soil we have left. If you look across here, there's a lot of empty, large soil canisters. But that's because I turned almost all of it into scrap, so we have 191 scrap now. That's going to go a long way for many videos. It was worth it. It was a worthwhile investment. But yeah, I'm just going to sort of leave all this here for just a few seconds while I go plot out at least the beginnings of a flat area from which to work with. And I gotta go across my rover trench. Alright, here we are way out in the boons, and I'm gonna murder this Attactus in cold blood so that it doesn't murder us in cold blood. Then we're gonna start flattening out the ground. It's gonna be a great time, and Now this is gonna be something approximating a nightmare because I don't have power out here because I'm so stupid I still haven't put a QTRTG in my inventory. I'm just gonna have to not use my drill mods while I make this sort of large area, but it's really not that deep. Probably. It wasn't even worth remarking upon, but I have remarked upon it, and so you have to live with that. Anyways, it seems that I did pick a good enough area over there where it's kind of just below the average sort of like height of everything, so actually I'm not going to need any soil at all probably in order to make the flat area that we need. But what we do need is an oxygenator because, yes, it's actually going to be detached from our base, so if I want to do anything over there ever, I'm going to want to be able to breathe. This isn't actually something I took into consideration effectively, but that's okay because redemption. Gonna go ahead and get that crafted up, no problem at all. But yes, with regard to taking all this stuff up there and setting it up, we're gonna start with the power system because it's going to need a bit of time for both the cactuses to grow so that we can put the tappers on them. But also, once that happens, we're gonna have to be able to, you know, fill all of these generators up before we start the system. So we just want to get out ahead of that and do that right now. So we have a couple of generators on it that will power the auto arms at first. And then, since it's powering the auto arms, the rest of the generators will fill up before these run out, so it should be self-sustained pretty much instantly whenever we begin setting it up. So we're going to do the nice, fantastic juggle method of just taking one of these platforms over here at a time. It is more convenient to do that than to set it all up, because otherwise we would have to carry all these generators in our inventory as well, and that would be no fun, as well as the medium platforms before they got unpackaged. It would be a mess, an ugly mess, perhaps even a disgusting mess, and we'd like none of these things. Anyways, we're going to kick it off officially with the oxygenator so that life over here is no nuisance. And, you know, the ground isn't like level, it's like flat, but it's not level, but it really doesn't matter too much. We might try to get it a little better here in a minute, but like this isn't like a proper base I'm going to operate out of. Once we set it up, we don't ever even have to return, technically. It's just so that we can have research. Gonna get the rest of the stuff, though, as well as this last platform. It's going to include the attack, the siege, which, if you don't know, is it's a hostile plant, shoots missiles at you, but once you murder one, you can have your own. And have your own is what we love because, again, they are the very best plant for the tapper, right? So we are going to have enough organic from just 5 of these to power all these small generators, which, if you ask me, is something else, huh? Something else, indeed. Vague descriptor there. That's my bad. Look, we'll move on. But yeah, I've decided this is a little too much of a ramp for me, so I will try to make it look a little bit nicer. So we're gonna go like to the halfway point of it and just tap real lightly like this, and then like we find this, we're like, oh, look at that there. That there's a little more level, and then we steal it. Just like that. And so, I'm gonna have to flatten out more ground, but I'm gonna wait until I set up the power to do so, because that'll make it so that my widen boost mod actually work, and we like our widen boost mod actually work, because widen boost mod actually work is us get this done 20 times faster. But yeah, it's becoming nighttime again, which is my favorite time, as you all know, but it's alright, we're just gonna have to suffer through it. Hopefully you're not watching this on a mobile device in a car with the sun on the screen, or you're not gonna see a thing. Unfortunate, but true. But yeah, we're gonna want the auto arms to come in from the back, like sideways like this, and so vaguely speaking, we're gonna have one auto arm feed this platform, the other one feed this one, but this one's gonna like sort of feed this platform because it is bigger, and it's like, you know, that's how it is. And everything here is going to be based on where the auto arms can place, of course. So it's backwards right now. The green is where it picks up, the blue is where it places. We want it like this, and that looks sufficient to me. It covers this entire platform and a few on this one. That's about what we're looking for. We want them to sort of share the load here 50-50. And now that we decided this is a good spot, we are going to turn it on, and we are going to turn it off, because actually we don't want it on yet. Then we're gonna make a little more room back here for the actual plants, so that's gonna have to happen. Then we are going to actually plant the plants. So we're looking at the ring there, right? We want it to sort of be the case that the tappers are in like the mid part of the ring there, so that, like, you know, we can fit a couple of them within it, which, you know, it's not gonna be hard with just 2, but when there's 3, it can be a little weird unless you place them like ridiculously close together, but I like to space things out for visual appeal. Anyways, you're going to want to have these in your inventory until you place them, because seeds do despawn unless they're on some kind of storage or in your inventory or something. If you just lay them on the ground like I have with these other items, they will disappear after a couple minutes because, well, like there are seed farms where maybe there's a whole lot of seeds, and it would be, it could become a real big problem, right? If you were to if they were to stay around forever. But here's this guy, so it's going to be a little weird because it's not exactly symmetrical, right? This auto arm is going to have 3 attack distances, this one's going to have 2, but that's just the way it is. We don't need 6, and so I decided not to do more than we needed just for the sake of symmetry. Alright, so here's a good spot for it right here. We are going to connect it, and we are going to filter both of these, because in life, if you don't filter both of these, maybe they'll pick up stuff that you don't want them to. They may even suck the soul straight out of your body. Metaphorically, of course, because in some instances when you're using auto arms and you don't filter them, if you're doing like an auto scrap farm or something, they may pick up something you wanted to keep, like a, you know, a small printer or something, and shove it in a scrapper. I just always filter my auto arms on principle, because you never freaking know. You never even know at all. Okay, so yeah. Place the rest of our plants, though, over here. Try to make sure, again, that the tapper will end up inside of the ring, which, again, like I said, is a bit more of an issue when you have 3 of them like this, if you're not placing them real close together. So that looks about good to me. And we're well enough off with just these 2 tappers over here to just go ahead and turn these generators on and let it get started on going wild here, right? It's going to start filling up, and then now it is self-sustained to a pretty good extent, because right now it's not even powering anything. And that's what you need to be careful with these systems, right? We have the auto arms that need power, and they're part of what makes the power. So, if your whole base is taking more power than this system produces, the auto arms will slow down because it's sharing the not enough power with everything else, and then they may not be able to keep up with the generators, and that vicious cycle could cause most of these generators to shut off, which just makes the problem even worse. So if you're doing a tapper system like this, you want to either isolate where the auto arms get their power from, or you want to make sure that you'll always have more power than you're ever going to use, or batteries or something like this, to make sure that the system doesn't shut itself down for lack of energy. But it's not going to be any problem with this. It's going to be a consistent, certain amount of power we need the whole time, and we exceed that by a good bit. So that's not going to be a threat here. And that's the power setup. I'm going to be honest, the power is like one of the more annoying parts of this, because like that's just so many generators I had to craft, but not really a big deal for anyone else. That was like all off-screen activities. Now all we got to do is just plop down a bunch of atmospheric condensers over here, and well, just 2 atmospheric condensers, thankfully, because they take a lot of power, which is another reason why you don't want to do helium. You would need a lot more atmospheric condensers, 4 times as many to get the same amount of work done. It's just the worst choice, probably. Now, I want to get the rest of this over there, but I obviously don't really want to pack all of this. So we're going to steal my large storage from the large shuttle, get the crap beat out of us by a weed, and then walk over here and sort of just turn my soil rover into a let's take my stuff over there rover. You feel me? So we're just going to pretend like this didn't have a purpose to begin with. Actually, we're even going to take the drill and the paver off, so we have all the room. And then we're almost going to get beat to death again. That's a lot of stuff, so I actually doubt I'll get it in one trip, even with the rover, but that just goes to tell you how important it is that we actually use it to begin with, because juggling all of this over there would be I want to break my knees with a baseball bat. Alright, so there we go. About half of it fit on there, and there are more efficient ways to store a bunch of stuff on a rover, obviously, but given the short distance here, don't really care that much. In fact, it probably wouldn't have been a whole lot slower to just juggle it over here manually, but something about that really gets under my skin. Makes me want to perform some unauthorized... I'm not going to finish that sentence. Look, let's just go. We have both of our atmospheric condensers, which are going to be the start of this chain, so we're going to set them up at a good spacing. We need to take into consideration here that one auto arm... No. Wait. We have 3 atmospheric condensers. I keep thinking there's 2. Let me just, refresh my mind. Okay, yes, like I was saying, though, we have 3 atmospheric condensers, and each of them go to 3 research chambers. And so each atmospheric condenser is going to have its own auto arm. That's probably unnecessary. We probably could do it with less, but I want this to be spaced out. There's no need to save just 1 graphite and 1 aluminum on doing 1 less auto arm or something like this. I prefer to have things looking neat, even if it's slightly more expensive. And so what I'm saying basically is, since each of these is going to 3 research chambers, we're going to have to space them out some, because if they were too close together, then the research chambers over here would not be able to be far enough away from each other to even, like, exist at all, right? You see what I'm saying? So they may even be, like, too close together right now. So I will space them out just a little bit more, make sure that they each got enough space for 3 research chambers apiece. And we're looking good, I would say. So we're going to go ahead and set the auto arms up as well. And first, we're going to get them started on doing the methane right now. One of the reasons I'm going to get them started right now is not just for the head start, of course, but because I want to use the methane from each of these to filter their own auto arms, because, again, filtering auto arms is a very important thing in life. Beautiful, just like this, getting them unpackaged and right on time. Our atmospheric condensers are ready to filter this stuff, and so we are ready to just place the research chambers. That's the last step. And then, well, it's not the last step. The last step is to celebrate, because I'm a genius, and I set all this up in really a reasonable time span. It's only been 2 hours of working on this so far, which isn't bad given that I kind of went out of my way to get a bunch of scrap and stuff that I didn't even need just for the future. I'm a big plan for the future kind of guy. That's my wisdom. But yeah, we're going to throw these off and not deal with them yet because we want to set up all the research chambers at once. And I'm going to go back and get the other stuff, which isn't necessary to keep in the video, so I'm going to anyways because, you know, I hate this kind of thing. We're going to move this stuff together. And look at that, the perfect amount of storage on this thing. Every single bit of it was necessary, and we are done. So we're going to take it over here. And let me tell you something. I probably maybe should have kept the drill and paver in the front because navigating Aatrox without such things isn't even worth it most of the time. But the distance here is pretty short. Therefore, yeah, we're fine. Almost nothing is left in this video, though. We are coming to a close here. All I have to do is literally just place these platforms, turn off the auto arms so they don't place methane on them prematurely, which I didn't think about. Make sure that each auto arm can only access the 3 research chambers it's designated for, which this one looks good, and this one looks like it can't reach the others, so, but they actually do need to be spaced out more. So, you know, you live and you learn. We really don't want any crossbreeding here. We're kind of just looking for a little inbreeding. Just like this. Yes, and so that looks like the right spacing, and we're gonna have to go a little bit further over here with this guy as well. All right, got the platforms placed, so now it's just a matter of research chambering up. So we are going to research chambering up. And so there we go, we got all of them placed, and something you need to understand is that there are a lot of fools out there, also known as regular people who didn't do anything wrong, who don't know that actually you can automate research chambers just by turning them on while they're empty. So whoops, I shouldn't have turned on the auto arms yet. They have to be empty, because what happens is, if I turn on a research chamber while something's in it, it will research that thing, then it will stop and turn off. If the research chamber is empty, then I turn it on while it's empty, then the moment something lands in it, research time. And so that's gorgeous. It's not like the trade platform where not having an automation button actually means you have to do, oh, this, and that. Like, no. It's pretty simple with this one. Just make sure it's empty and turn it on, and it is automated. Sometimes I forget stuff like this is common knowledge, so I am glad I did remember to point that out in this particular video. Just make sure you have all these empty, and then turn them on before you begin with actually getting them going. And you should be good. And so, just like this, these last two right here will be the end of me automating mine. Yep. Then we can place these back in here, get our auto arms turned back on, and just like that, for the rest of my pathetic, miserable life, I don't want to live. I'm sorry. Irrelevant, and also not true, alright? I'm so happy. Make sure everything's in range. I did have to adjust this one slightly, and everyone else is looking fine. So, we have 1,440 bytes per minute. Forever, because these will be able to keep up. We did math together. Actually, I did math, and you watched, so the math was probably wrong, and also you probably realized, but I don't really care right now. I'm just gonna have to wait until somebody insults me in the comments for it if that is the case, but I think I got the math right. And so, I suppose that brings this video to a close, right? We made pretty good progress. I would say making it so that we don't have to deal with bytes ever again is certainly, it qualifies as a milestone. Let's just say. And so, I'm very glad for that. And one last thing I will say before we go, because I do forget to say stuff like this. I do forget that a lot of people watching these videos maybe are new to the game, or just don't know some of this stuff that, because they haven't tested it yet. Yes, this works outside of render distance, or so I thought. No, but it does. It works outside of render distance. All of the crafting stations and auto arms and that kind of thing work outside of render distance. If I had to guess, the reason this is currently below 1,440 is because we started the research chambers at a similar time, but it actually has to be such that they are ready to be loaded, like, after each methane is produced. So what I'm trying to say is, basically, after a few minutes, this should level out at 1440 and stay that way pretty much all the time. But, yeah, you do got to keep stuff like that in mind when you're automating stuff. Like, if you start everything at once, but it actually has to be, like, one and then a few seconds and then the next, it's got to, like, take its own time to fix itself. But, yes, stuff like that works outside of render distance. To my knowledge, the only thing automated that doesn't work outside of render distance is growing plants. But I have been informed in the comments that there's a mega structure that does that for you, and I'm going to guess that that fixes that. So plants probably do get farmed in said mega structure automatically. And that is definitely something we're going to have to invest in because of that thing over there, right? It needs a bunch of seeds, and we do not want to do that the manual way because we need 100,000 seeds. So, yeah. Anyways, goodbye.